Hi, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. I just finished up an album called Object Permanence. I'm in a bit of a creative doldrums where I don't really want to start a new project, and it's kind of a weird place to be mentally. Been watching a lot of Philosophy Tube, and also I noticed that Andrew Huang was involved in a panel recently about mental health for creatives. And I thought that it was about time that I tried making this video. Originally, I had planned on doing a sort of promotional video where I was going to tell you about the album and how it was made. But then I realized that all the things I really wanted to tell you about were like what the songs were about. And then I was like, oh, well, this dovetails nicely into the subject at hand, which is discussing anxiety and creatives. This video is primarily going to be a sort of personal experience and anecdotal, so don't expect a Philosophy Tube level sort of foray into anxiety from a factual and philosophical perspective, but I do want to share my experience with you in case that it might help you, if you're suffering from anxiety or a mental health issue that maybe you have left undiagnosed or untreated that is making your life difficult. So just real quick to talk about the album and the themes that anxiety still play in my life. Any Wonder is mostly about the sort of panic attacks that you can get at night or anytime. They usually happen to me at night, where all of a sudden your brain just starts racing on things that you don't really want to think about. In this case, a big part of it is the, realization that you are going to die and that all of the things that you've done are kind of meaningless. And yeah, you just sort of sit there paralyzed by these feelings. Ordinary life is about trying to make peace with being happy with the things that just happen, and that life itself is sort of something that you can make the most of. The middle is about making peace with the fact that you're not going to be what they told you were when you were growing up, and that's okay. In the dark is about losing somebody very close to you and going through that process, which isn't really an anxiety process. It's more of a coming to terms with something that's going to happen more and more as you get older. Some of us, it happens to us when we're younger. It's just something that happens. So that's the self-promotion angle to this video. Go get my album. Let's talk about anxiety. When I was growing up, I was diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, probably around elementary school, maybe going into middle school. And I was prescribed Ritalin, and I don't remember how long I took it because I don't really remember a lot from those days, but I knew that that was a thing that I was doing that I think I stopped in high school. And then that was it. Like, I didn't have any medical or psychological help about my feelings forever, like decades. So then I went to college, and my anxiety got so bad that I couldn't hold my embouchure playing the flute anymore. This thing that I had been good at for so long, the thing that defined me, being able to play the flute, I couldn't hold an embouchure. I was just falling apart, and I dropped out. And then I went to audio school, and then I remember working as a bike messenger for a few years after that. And at some point, I decided that I needed some help again mentally. I don't remember exactly why, and I don't remember what led to this, but I ended up going to a doctor and talking to them about feelings, and they prescribed something. I think it was Effexor, and it made me feel really shitty. I remember quitting it cold turkey, which was a really bad idea. Effexor, if I remember correctly, is a SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And some of those, if you quit them cold turkey, can have really bad side effects. And one of those is something that's colloquially known as the brain shocks. Basically, I was losing microseconds of time when my brain would just shock itself, like this feeling of just like bzzz. And that's a really great thing to have rolling around on a bicycle very fast through traffic on the streets of Seattle. It was not fun, and I stayed away from any sort of medical intervention in my feelings for another few decades. I went to therapy a few times during the next 20 years, and it helped because it was very specific instances where my brain was just trying to tear me apart and I needed to talk to somebody. But the mistake that I had been making was thinking that my feelings were normal. And this is a good time to pull up the the clinical definition of anxiety. This is from the mayoclinic.org. Experiencing occasional anxiety is a normal part of life. However, people with anxiety disorders frequently have intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Often, anxiety disorders involve repeated episodes of sudden feelings of intense anxiety and fear or terror that reach a peak within minutes, aka panic attacks. These feelings of anxiety and panic interfere with daily activities, are difficult to control, are out of proportion to the actual danger, and can last a long time. You may avoid places or situations to prevent these feelings. Symptoms may start during childhood or the teen years and continue into adulthood. Examples of anxiety disorders include generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, social phobia, specific phobias, and separation anxiety disorder. You may have more than one, if you're lucky. Whatever form of anxiety you have, treatment can help. So those panic attacks, I had no words for what those were. I just had them, and they were absolutely terrifying. I remember almost passing out on a BART train in the Bay Area on my commute one day because it was really packed and we got stuck in the tunnel going to the East Bay, and my brain just wouldn't stop freaking out, and I almost lost consciousness on this goddamn train because of my anxiety. It was expressing itself in other ways too. There is this drive to always be doing something. I could never rest, and always be doing something creative, always be doing something with music, always be doing something with video. Later, it expressed itself with always doing something with YouTube, and that led to some pretty bad stuff with my relationship with my partner, Brian, because I was like, oh, I gotta do, and he's like, well, what about our life? And I was like, well, this is more important than our life. And my brain had turned the creative process into this obsessive compulsive thing that if I wasn't doing it, I wasn't doing anything worthwhile. That was the main expression of my anxiety when it came to creative work that was problematic. I had decided that when I wanted to be creative, it was the only thing that mattered. And if I couldn't do it, or if I couldn't do the other things that I was used to doing, like exercising, basically if my schedule got messed up, I would fall apart. I would become really obnoxiously cranky. I would not be able to focus on other things. I was just a really difficult person to be around. And that's no way to have a relationship. So about 1.5 years ago, my partner and I moved into this house that you see me filming in now. And things started to reach a bit of a head. Moving into a house can introduce a lot of things that you're not necessarily used to in terms of stuff that you have to do. There's a lot to do around the house, especially a new house. You have to do a lot of work to maintain it and stuff like that. And that started to eat into YouTube time. Our relationship was starting to fall apart because of it. So around the same time, my partner decided that he was depressed, and he decided to pursue some help for that, which he ended up getting some medication to try, which seemed to really help him out. So I was like, well, maybe I have depression. Maybe my sadness around how I feel about all these things, it's hard to explain, but I had considered self-harm a lot. I got sad about a lot of things that I shouldn't, in a disproportionate amount. Being sad about things is normal in this day and age. And as the Mayo Clinic said, a certain amount of anxiety is normal in this age. It's actually a part of us, anxiety. It's a sort of warning system that's built into us. But it can get out of control. So I went and I got a prescription for something, and it was actually the same thing that my partner had, because it was supposed to be really easy to get on and off of it, and it seemed to be working really well for him. And it was not the thing for me. It was not good for me at all. So eventually I ended up finding that Lexapro helps me. So I'm currently taking Lexapro. I have been for over 6 months now, and it's really interesting how it mitigates my reaction to anxiety-producing stimuli. I still have a lot of anxiety. I think you can probably tell from watching my videos that I'm kind of a twitchy guy, I'm not doing a lot of cocaine. That's just sort of where that comes from. And I really don't want to get rid of my anxiety altogether, because I always kind of figured that drive, that stuff that made me work so hard, I always kind of figured that it was part of me. It was it was a big, you can't just take a part of somebody and and pluck it out and expect them to be the same thing. So I was concerned that I was going to lose my drive for creativity. I was going to just sort of like want to play video games all the time. And it turns out that's not the case. So that's good. And here we get to the part where I stop talking about myself and I start talking about you. I have a friend that we'll call Rango. He's a very talented creative who, sort of a multi-talented person who I have become friends with over the last year, who spends a lot of his time just worrying about everything, including his art. And it's actually gotten so bad that he stopped making art because it brings him so much anxiety that he can't do it. Like the whole process of sharing afterwards and stuff like that, like it breaks him for various reasons. And some of them are legit. And that's the thing about anxiety and how insidious it is that you'll take the seed of something real and you'll blow it up so big that it hobbles you. It makes it impossible for you to make any action whatsoever. And when I was confused about anxiety and depression in myself, I think that's why I originally thought I was depressed, because anxiety can flip over and turn into depression, sort of feel paralyzed by your lack of choice. And then your worldview sort of like goes, and you feel like there's nothing worth doing. And that's a really shitty place to be. If you find yourself in a position as a creative where you are being ridden by yourself, or you are not in control of how you feel about your art or your life, I want to tell you that you can find help and that you should seek out help. Talk to somebody about your feelings, and really open up and see. And I'm talking about a professional. Your friends are great. I'm sure you have amazing friends. We all have amazing friends that we trust, but they're not in a position to really help you here. They can let the steam off the valve a little bit. They can open up that valve and let some steam off so that you can get through. And friends are great in that respect. It's amazing to have people that you can talk to that you really trust. But finding a professional to sit down and explain how you're feeling and why it's a problem to you will help quite a bit, I think. I know that not everybody has access to a professional talker, or they don't have medical insurance so that they can go afford a professional talker. If you're in university, there should be resources at hand for you in that respect, I hope. If you're in high school, there should be resources at hand for you, I hope. If you are in high school or uni or even outside of those, and there's no one in your schools that you can talk to professionally, some LGBT centers have therapists or can refer you to therapists. If you're not LGBT, then go online and Google a little bit and see what you can find. Counseling service is huge and hugely helpful. This goes for you if you're depressed as well. It's hard to get past that initial feeling that the feelings that you're feeling are like 100% real, that the world is actually sort of a shitty place that's out to get you. And unfortunately, you have to walk that tightrope for your whole life. The world is a shitty place, and there are a lot of like clueless and malicious people out there who will try to take advantage of you or just make your life terrible because it's in their best interest. They don't even care about you. But we can't always let that like destroy us. We owe it to ourselves to find a way through that and be the best person for ourselves and the best person for our partners and friends. So I urge you, creatives and non-creatives, if you're watching this, if you feel like your life is out of control, go talk to somebody, please, and listen to what they have to say, and then consider your options. Ongoing therapy might be what you need. You may need to find a way to take the feelings that you're having and transmute them, sort of like through like cognitive behavioral stuff. Medication may help you. Just try what you can, because you only have one life. And I'm 40, just turned 40 in November, and realizing that I had been suffering from an anxiety disorder my entire life was something that made me wish that I had the resources and the wherewithal to go look into a long time before that, because I feel like I sort of missed an opportunity. I look back on my whole life and all the opportunities that I sort of like shied away from or ruined because of my anxiety. It would have been a lot better if I hadn't. So take some action for yourself. I promise it'll be worth it. If you are creative and you're feeling like your anxiety or depression is making it so you can't even do what you love, then there's no reason not to try and find some way through that, because again, one life, just make the best of it. And that's all for the rambling from me. I hope that maybe this helps you. I don't know. Go check out my new album. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That's what you do at the end of these super serious videos, right? Go watch Philosophy Tube. He's absolutely amazing. And Andrew, if you have a recording of that Mental Health for Creatives panel that you did at that recent conference, I would love to see it. That's it. My name's Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.